Hi, this is Gary Dranow from Park City, Utah, and the Gary Dranow Show, proudly broadcasting to you from Radio Evolve Rocks in Santa Barbara, California. Listen more and evolve. Welcome to the Gary Dranow Show. We have a very special guest today, Garret Vandermolen. Garret Vandermolen is a musician and music business veteran who has played many roles, recording, touring, artist recording, a record producer, label, founder, manager, promoter, publicist, manager. He's got a manager like 3 times in here. Over his 35 years of contributing to the pop rock music scene. When we talk about pop rock, are you familiar with the pop international overthrow, or is it international pop overthrow?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm actually I wouldn't say super great friends, but good friends with David Bash, and I've gone over and done his show in Liverpool. We did that 2 years ago.
In the Cavern, huh?
Cavern, yeah, it was really awesome, and just a life changing experience for sure.
Fantastic. I had David on the show about 2 months ago or so, and very interesting guy, and the whole. And what is it again? International Pop Overthrow?
Yeah, that's his. He does them all over the country and obviously in England.
Yeah, and I was just trying to get the name straight.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got a whole tour in many cities, but Liverpool is just one of them. But that would be his flagship venue, I would say, huh?
It's a good one.
Yeah. So, Garret, tell me, where were you born and raised?
So I was born in West Orange, New Jersey, same birthplace as Queen Latifah, believe it or not. And I grew up in northern New Jersey, essentially, till I was about 18. And then I did a 5-year plan in Pennsylvania for college. And the day I graduated, I moved to Boston, and I've been there ever since.
Since you brought up college, I mean, that's a question I got a little farther down the list, but what did you study music in college or music business in college?
I started out as a music major because I was a trombone player, fairly accomplished. I went in for jazz trombone, and I think I discovered other interests in my freshman year that took me away from that. And it's funny because, well, it's not funny. Maybe it's tragic with a happy ending. I was kicked out of the college. So
why?
Poor academic performance. I had a grade point average at the end of my freshman.
You and I are birds of a feather. I would leave college every semester for ski racing. So
I was really lucky though, in that number one, at my home, I was able to go back and go to community college and do very well. And I had 2 people at the college I was attending, which was Gettysburg College, a dean and a professor of sociology, that really supported me coming back, and they let me back in. And I changed my major to English literature, and that's what I ended up getting a degree in and graduating with that.
Are you an author, among other things?
Well, I write songs, if that counts.
It absolutely counts.
And I also obviously do all of the copy for everything, liner notes and things that we put out on the Sound Cove. And I did that when I was running a record label for the Rounder Records group. I did a lot of the liner notes, the blurbs, all of those things. So I mean, what I learned there, definitely
you put to use for sure.
Yeah. I still need a good proofreader, though.
Okay. So tell me, what was your earliest musical influences? That you could remember going way back.
I kind of sensed that I would get asked this question. I was actually thinking about it. And I think more than musical influences, I've always been fascinated by recorded music. And I remember being a small child sitting in the closet in my mother's bedroom listening to 45s on like an old, those old record players that we used to have. before there were like stereo hi-fis. People just had to turn all in one turntable,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
578, and listening to Kids 45s and other, popular music from like the late 60s and early 70s. I was born in 66, so
Oh,
um,
you're a child.
I am. I'm just a baby, just a baby. Uh,
Yeah, compared to me, you are.
so I love that, and then I got into like a lot of things that I think people my age like. I loved the Beatles. I loved all of that English rock. I liked pop music, like even some of the bubblegum stuff. So basically, things I think with a melody are what really attracted me. To be honest,
Let me ask you a quick question. Just change the subject for a real quick second. This picture behind me, is that Abbey Road?
it is. It is.
Wow.
So
Uh,
we when we went over for that international pop overthrow show in Liverpool, I brought the band to London and we recorded our single "Silver Lining" at Abbey Road Studios.
oh,
And
that's huge.
yeah, it was life changing. It was emotional. I mean, I went to a place that's kind of a holy grail for a lot of us, and an area where my heroes created music, and to just be in that building, be able to work there, be able to make a song, track it, mix it, and do it all in one day was just it was an epic experience. I think for all of us, it was really great.
Oh, that's just, I'm blown away. I've never been in a famous studio in my life. Um,
There's still time,
uh, well, it's still time. Yeah, yeah. Well, for me, maybe not, but
of course. Yeah.
yeah, hopefully you're right. Uh, was your family at all musical?
My mother had a piano. We had an upright piano, and she was okay. I had a sister, my second in line, my younger sister, who actually was phenomenal at everything she picked up. She just never really held the focus or interest, but she would pick it up quickly, become proficient, and then get bored. I have another younger sister who played a little bit of piano and a little bit of violin, and then my brother is an avid music listener and I think closet guitar player. He's occasionally shared with me that he plays guitar, but he keeps it to himself.
Back to the closet in the 45. So what were the things you were listening to again?
Well, I had a lot of like, believe it or not, like things. Uh, I'm trying to remember what those kids labels were, but I'd have things like Smokey the Bear and
Oh,
Bears
okay.
and all that kind of stuff. But then my aunt had also given me things like Harry Nilsson and Elvis Presley and the Beatles and Love Grows Where My Rosemary Goes. That one. I have that on 45. I have this whole stack. I still have it in one of those cheesy plastic 45 holders. And I just sit there and listen to those things over and over again.
Wow, wow.
Elvis
Um,
first Elvis Presley record. I listen to that all the time. The one that had like "Rip It Up" and "You" and all that.
still to this day.
I still have it. Yeah, it's up and upstairs with my records.
Uh-huh. What was your first? So your first instrument was trombone, or did you have piano? Or
Started, I think, on piano lessons. Then I played trombone, and then I got a bass. I got a guitar. I got a bass and guitar kind of the same time. I think maybe when I was, I don't know, 8 or 9 of classical guitar, but I really didn't know how to use them. I had like a Mel Bay book. It wasn't till I was about 14 or 15 that I really started playing stringed instruments and putting bands together and doing that type of thing. And that was, kind of the beginning of this disease that I've had for the rest of my life.
the addiction.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so did you have bands in any of your schools, like elementary school, junior high school,
Well, I played
college?
trombone. I played when I played trombone. I played in the orchestra and the all state bands, the jazz bands, and all that kind of stuff.
So
But
so you were very proficient on trombone.
on trombone, yes. So I can read bass cliff for trombone. I can't really read it when I play bass. I'm trying to recapture that skill. But on trombone, I was very proficient. Yes, I mean I was
Is
first
trombone
chair.
bass clef?
Trombone is bass
Is
clef.
trom Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I think as far as bands go, I just started like trying to find people that were interested in the same thing that I was interested in. It was hard. When I was 16, I started a band with a guy named Bobby Rogers, and we would play like Sweet 16 parties and anything anybody would ever have us. And we were terrible. I mean, back then I thought we were the best thing ever. But going back,
How
this
we fool ourselves, huh?
yeah. But it was a great experience. I got to join another band in high school that was like they were great musicians, and I replaced a bass player who was fantastic. And it was like, okay, you have to learn fast and learn how to play it well quickly, and that was a great experience.
What
And then
what year was this about?
this is probably like 1982 ish, maybe right around there.
Not Katie bar the door yet.
So Katie Bar the Door was college, and that was a life changing moment because I met this guy Glenn Dicker, who I maybe he runs Yep Rock Records and Red Eye Distribution, and um, we became fast friends and started this band, and it was the kind of the first time where it was like I was involved with somebody who I felt was in the same mindset in terms of like that power pop melodic rock kind of thing. And we put that band together, and it was phenomenal because we would play on campus. We'd open for people that would come through, like the Flesh Tones and Miracle Legion, and all these like kind of indie rock bands that were on their Northeast tour circuit. And it was really just something else. I look back at the time with a lot of fondness, and we actually convinced the college radio station to pay for us to go into a recording studio and make a 7-inch vinyl single, and we put that out.
My God, what astute music business person you were.
Well,
Um,
every opportunity to learn how to do it and do it better, and kind of get best practices in doing it. In fact, I'm still doing that to this day. Every time I put a record out on the Sound Cove, I learn something new about trying to do it better, more efficiently, and also better for the artists that I'm working with.
and we are going to jump into the Sound Cove, and the new and upcoming Sonic Escort, but we'll get to that in about 10 minutes. Um, so Plimsolls, I'm guessing. Who are your biggest influences?
My biggest influences, I would say, are definitely, well, it's spread across several genres. So, like in the pop rock thing, I would have to say the Beatles, the Kinks, stuff like that. I
So
love
the 60s, huh?
60s and 70s. I like the 70s a
Yeah.
lot. I like so much music. I mean, Gary, I ran a reggae label for Rounder Records for 6 years, so I love reggae, particularly the early stuff from like Studio One and Treasure Isle, where those labels were basically mimicking Motown and that type of thing. That music is just incredible to me, absolutely incredible. And then I love jazz too as well. So early early lover of Louis Armstrong, but I like Cannonball Adderley. I like Lee Morgan
What about Wes Montgomery?
and West Montgomery, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
What an amazing talent and story that is. He
Who also
started at nine. Who?
he didn't read music either, which
Yeah,
was which I
and he
thought
started
phenomenal.
at 19, if you could believe that.
Yeah.
And he died at 45 and left such a big imprint on the jazz scene. But we're off
So as a broad
topic
palette,
here.
I hate getting asked that question, like, what are your influences? Because to me, everything is an influence. I mean, if you hear something, you absorb it, and particularly if you're a songwriter, these are the things that you use. They're kind of like your palette. By palette of paint, these things that you create with are things that have entered into your head that you've heard.
So melodies exist in your mind, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
Not for me. uh, uh, so, um, we covered the early 80s, and then came Katie Bar the Door, KBTD, an original power pop rock band that you co-founded at Gettysburg College?
Gettysburg College, yep, in Pennsylvania.
Gettysburg College, like Gettysburg, like
Yeah,
the Gettysburg.
that place, yeah.
So tell me all about Katie, the name and what the group was about. And
Well, that's an expression of, that's was fairly common. Watch out, things are going to get wild. I think we heard Sam Donaldson say it on a national newscast one night. Katie, bar the door. Things are going to get crazy here. Basically like close the tavern door. Don't let anybody out or in. We need to shut this thing down because it's just getting too out of hand. So that's kind of where the name came from. And like I said earlier, that's where I met Glenn, and we formed this band, and it was great. We recorded, we did original music, we play on campus. We do like a lot of covers.
You opened for the Flesh Tones, the Neats, Miracle Legion, Flaming Lips,
yes,
and others.
Yes, it was a great experience. I mean, really formative for us, for me.
Well, I'm jealous. I've been playing for 6 years, and I opened for Frank Zappa back in
that's pretty awesome.
late 70s, but that's the only claim to fame. When my band was based out of LA, my keyboard player was Frank Zappa's keyboard player, Tommy Mars.
Oh wow!
So, yeah, but that's my claim to fame. Other than that, I've just been toiling away out here. You've got a song called "Smoke 'Em If You Got 'Em."
Yes.
And it makes me ask, you got a military background? Because that's what they would say to you before you go out on a patrol or mission or whatever.
When I was after college, I played in a rock band called the Vouts, and we did some touring. We went about as far west as St. Louis, and that's kind of we bandy that about every once in a while. And who's got a cigarette? Smoke them if you got them. But as far as the song goes, I think that song is really about mental health, and kind of depression and things that people go through. And I always think of like One Who Flew Over the Coast of This, where all those people smoking constantly. So I was like, oh, maybe this could be like the hook for this song, kind of about it. And it's really, the song was kind of inspired by my son, who has had some issues of his own, and by myself and my family and friends. And, it's a bigger deal than a lot of people think. And sometimes if you're in a depressive state, it's really tough to pull out of it.
Hey, I'm a bipolar 1, so you're preaching to the choir here.
So that song was kind of like, I don't know, it just kind of came out, and it came quickly. And I was like, all right, I was a little scared about putting it out because it's not, typical like boy meets girl or girl leaves boy or anything
right.
like
not typical fare.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also production wise, I made a lot of engineers would call them questionable choices, but in the end I think it came out sounding pretty good. So
by the way, I've listened to all your music and I'm a fan. All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break, so we'll be right back with Garret Vandermolen.
Life, attending beauty pageants, and made a porn star his wife. He developed the land in the name of all mankind. He left a trail of debt behind. Got a golden throne and keeps it to himself. Likes all those little girls and bragging about his wealth. Elected president upon a bed of lies. down everything, reshape the world so that they can have it all. The day will come when the mighty will fall. So with great power, he bullies everyone.
And we're back with Garret Vandermolen, a man of many talents, and he blossomed from a classical and jazz trombone player into a multi-instrumentalist. Do I have that right, Garret?
Do and that's generous. Thank you.
Well, talk about it a little bit.
Jack of all trades, master of none. I think I have
The true dilettante.
Yeah, just enough skill to be dangerous on all those instruments, you know.
All right. You spent some time touring as bassist for Eddie Munoz of the Plimsouls, and also a member of Boston-based power pop band Glowbox. Talk about that period.
So the Plimsouls thing was, and it really wasn't the Plimsouls, it was Eddie Munoz billing himself as the Plimsouls. But it was a fantastic experience. I was really lucky that I have a friend of mine, Anthony Kaczynski, who was in a band called Figures on the Beach and is also now playing in the Magnetic Fields. He's a phenomenal vocalist, and he kind of got the job as singer in Eddie's band, and they needed a bass player. So Anthony recruited me, and we did this quickie little tour, and it was amazing. You know, the Plimsouls are somewhat iconic and really well known for they had a big hit single called A Million Miles Away, but they also had like a lot of other regional songs that were hits in California, like Now. And to go out and just play those shows in front of, you know, enthusiastic audiences in clubs was pretty amazing. It was a great experience. The Glowbox thing, those guys are friends of mine who I've done shows with in my original band, Speed Fossil. We've done shows together, and they were in a position where their bass player, sadly, got sick, and he's actually now deceased. He died. He had brain cancer, and
that's awful, man.
Yeah, it happened really, really quickly. But they needed someone to do shows, commitments they had, and I was like, hey, you know, I love you guys. I love playing bass. I don't get to do that enough. I'd love to do it. So I did a bunch of shows with them last year, and now the band has decided to carry on. 2 original members, a new guitarist, and I've stepped in as their bass player, and we've done a couple gigs, and it's fantastic. You know, they're great. Kevin Dranow is the guy who runs that outfit, and he's a great songwriter. So it's great songs, and I really enjoy doing it. So it's a lot of fun.
And is that Speed Fossil, or that's something different?
That's Glowbox.
Glowbox. Okay, all right.
He's kind of been on hiatus for the past year. So
yeah, we'll get into the whole Speed Fossil thing. I mean, I'm completely intrigued by the name. After Katie barred the door, Garret, you moved on to Boston and found work at Rounder Records.
Yes.
Is this the beginning of your music business acumen?
Yeah, you know, I think it was developing all along, but obviously when you go to actually work for a record label, you learn a lot. And I was fortunate I was able to work my way up through that organization. I kind of started off in their warehouse as a picker and a packer, you know, because they were also a record distributor. So I'd be, you know, pulling CDs and records out of bins and putting them in boxes to ship to people, that type of thing. I moved up into an accounting department. I did accounts payable, accounts receivable, and then they had a position open up at their reggae imprint Heartbeat, and I got hired as the label manager for that. And that was just again like a fantastic period of my life, working with artists like Burning Spear, The Meditations, Sister Carol, Michael Rose from Black Uhuru, putting out all the Studio One and Treasure Isle reissues. It was
Any artists out of Jamaica?
all of them, every single one
All
of
of them. Okay. All
them.
right. Cool.
Phenomenal. I got to go to Jamaica. I got to do recording sessions in Jamaica. Um, it was just a time of my life. I was in my 20s. Uh, I really was fortunate to be able to do that and do it for a while. It was a great experience.
While at Heartbeat, were you also performing and touring with the Vouts?
Yes, yeah. So we did that. That was through the early '90s. The Vouts did a 7-inch single, an EP, and a full-length CD. We did several East Coast tours. We did one almost national tour. I mean, we basically went out 30 days straight and went all the way out to St. Louis and back to Boston. Played every night. It was, again, being able to do that. It's you you really get to know people when you're spending time with them in a van. you know Probably 18 hours of the 24 hours a day that you're living. So
I read somewhere that you actually burned out in like late 2001 and you were
it
disillusioned, unhappy, and a new father at the time. And you took a break, right?
yeah, there was a convergence of events. So after Heartbeat, I worked with this organization called the Fort Point Entertainment Group, and at the time it was a great move. We raised investor money. We were putting out people's records. We were trying to do movie soundtracks. We were doing publicity, promotion, record label, all this
So,
stuff.
so you got experience with sync licensing?
All of that stuff. And it was,
Wow.
but unfortunately, it was at a time that company kind of ended in 2001, like right around the time of the World Trade Center disaster. The economy crashed. We ran out of money. There were a whole bunch of economic things that really came in and crushed that business. And I wasn't getting anywhere with my original music. And I had a new son as well. My first son, McCoy, was born, and I just was unhappy. So I just stopped playing music completely. And that lasted almost a decade. That I did.
I had a stroke in 1998, which knocked me out of music for almost 10 years. So
I'm glad to
I
recover from it.
well, that's why I said I don't hear melodies in my head. That's what the stroke did to me. But the blessing is everything I write is totally original because I don't hear music. I don't have a record player going on in my head.
Got it.
And it makes I'm a guitar player and a front man for my own band, and it makes all my solos interesting because I never know where I'm going.
True.
um, so current, uh, I have here Yep Rock record owners Glenn Dicker and Tor Hansen. These were members with the Vouts
Yep.
or
Yep.
Vout.
Great guys. And obviously they've gone on to do something special. They're really kind of movers and shakers in the independent music world, which is fantastic. And I think both of those guys always had that vision to do something like that. So
Okay. So through almost 2 decades, 20 years, you touched practically every facet of the music industry as a songwriter, producer, promoter, engineer, A&R executive, label owner, and member of a touring band. I mean, is there anything you haven't done in music? Or here's the question: is there something that you want to do in music that you haven't done yet?
I would like to get it to a point where it's a little more sustainable for me economically. I think there's a lot of investment that goes into it, both emotional and fiscal.
Oh
And
yeah.
on the emotional side, you get a lot of paybacks, obviously, when you play live gigs or you have success with something on the radio or something sells kind of okay. But on the fiscal side, it's a hustle. I'm sure you know this. You're a musician. You're constantly investing your assets to try to get that thing to grow and have something really click. So I'd like to see that happen a little bit more often, let's say. there are pockets where things have been successful, but to get it to be more consistent and a little bit more stable, that would be a goal for me in pursuing it.
Yeah, that's a goal for me too. I got to tell you, I'm running through about 30 grand a month right now. So uh, I would love for my music to support my habit,
Right, right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people
Uh,
ways, like we all know musicians that play in cover bands, and that can be lucrative, right?
no,
Um,
yeah.
but when you're doing original music, it's kind of it's a different ball game. Cover bands, people are coming to hear songs they already know. Original bands, they don't know what you're going to play. Usually, especially when you're starting out, everything is
Interestingly, you mentioned David Bash, and he in my interview um, uh, really brought up that now it's harder to get people to come out. Number one, and number two, for live acts or live for original acts, people don't know your music,
yeah,
so it's tough.
it's very tough. It's very tough. And luckily, there are little scenes all across the country that exist where that is still supported. I'm fortunate in Boston, like there is a bit of a music scene and people still do go out, but it's also saturated. On any given Friday or Saturday night, there could be 30, 40 bands playing all around Metro Boston. And we're
Wow.
all kind of fishing in the same pond. So that's just at like the B level and C level, indie bands. If there's like a major act in town at, a huge venue, that's pulling people too. So it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge, without a doubt.
All right. And I'm living it. I know. Songwriting's in your blood, and that's what got you sucked back in after your hiatus, right?
Yeah.
Your and some of persistent friends and colleagues who urged you to come back to music.
Yes. So, I for a while, and I still to some extent do, but I made my coin, my money in the wine trade, in the wine business, working for a wine importer. Um, and I had a lot of friends in that area, and many of them knew that I played music, and a couple of them were like, "Hey, how come you don't play? You should really play." And I had one friend, Dave Bove, a sweetheart of a guy, who said, "All right, we're going to put a band together, and you're going to be in it, and you're going to play." And he arranged to have us get together after hours at a wine shop in Belmont, Massachusetts. They locked the doors, no customers there, and we all sat and played. And we were just doing, different types of covers. And I met this guy, Greg McCleary, who was like, this is boring for me. I like original music. I heard you write songs. Would you want to get together and show me some songs, and I can record them? I have a studio. I can do this. I was like, sure, I'd love to do that, because I kind of felt the same way. And it kind of launched me back into this thing. Greg has been a partner and a friend now ever since that time, and we still work together, still do music together. In fact, I think one of the singles I sent you, he mixed it for me and played drums on it, and added keyboard parts and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of the start of me getting back into it. And once I started doing it, I was like, wow, this is what I really love. And I just didn't know how much I missed it. And now I'm of the mind, like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing this because it's who I am.
Mm. Uh, we all got to be who we are. There's no other way to go. Um, I was listening to one song in particular that had a female singer, Little Happy Clouds or
Oh, Happy Little Clouds. Yeah. So
Happy Little Clouds. Yeah. I
actually,
thought that was an interesting song.
it's actually not, it's not a female singer. It's a they, and it's Jack Mistal, and they're fantastic. That's one of the groups that I put on.
Wow, he's got such a high voice.
Yeah, it's amazing. They're a great band, fantastic band, and great live too as well.
And
Um,
is that part of Sound Cove
it is.
family?
So So the Sound Cove is something I started. I guess I should preface that a little bit, and sorry to ramble on here, but in my original band, Speed Fossil, the band that I front and I write the songs for and I put music out of, we were signed to a label called Red on Red Records, which was run by Justine Koval. And Justine Koval, unfortunately, passed away a couple of years ago, and the label basically ended. And I had no label anymore to put my music out. You know, one of the things you were talking about, goals. Like, I had a goal to get on a label, and I finally did with Red on Red. And Justine was just amazing, supportive for me, my music, for so many artists that she put out. So when I had this next batch of songs together that was supposed to be put out by Red on Red, I was kind of in this position of like, okay, well, what do I do? I talked to a couple different labels. I got a couple offers, but nothing really seemed to be the right fit. And I felt like, well, why don't I start something? And I came up with this idea for the Sound Cove, which is basically, you know, an enabling organization for all of these acts, where I'm going to do singles because I have the bandwidth to deal with one song. You know, doing a whole album, that's somebody's baby. That's a big deal, right?
Do you know a guy named Mark Platt?
I do know Mark. Yeah, Mark is you know Mark too. Mark is my promo guy. So he does.
Oh yeah. You came through Mark.
Yeah.
The reason why I brought him up is he's kind of doing the same thing you're doing.
Mark is great, and Mark is a great partner and a great ally, and also gives me some great advice for running my label, and you know, how to really maximize the exposure for these artists that I'm putting out. But ultimately, I decided to do the Sound Cove, this digital label, and I started approaching people. I have super friendly artist terms. You know, I'm not. A lot of times when people put other folks' music out, you know, they've got both hands in both pockets, taking everything out.
Masters and publishing.
My take is very small, but my theory is that it's you know, like the old axiom is, a rising tide lifts all boats, and that's what the Sound Cove is based on. So if I can gather up artists of people whose music I like, you know, and want to promote and want to put out, and I can help them get to whatever their next level is, right? It's a good thing, and it helps me, and I'm building this stable that's going to be a platform for the music that I put out from all of these different groups and artists and bands.
Mostly power pop and
mostly power pop, because you know, we're playing in that Radio Indie Alliance sandbox, and that audience, you know, they're looking for songs that are around 3 minutes, you know, certainly nothing longer than 4, and it tends to be like upbeat, more kind of catchy, melody driven music. So that's kind of what I look for. Sometimes there's an exception. Sometimes there's a song where it's just like, wow, you know, this song is just awesome and unbelievable, and I'll do it and I'll put it out. But for the most part, that's the criteria for a Sound Cove single.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into Speed Fossil in detail. Let's see here. Oh, we got to take a 2-minute break. We'll be right back with Garret Vandermolen, the man of many talents.
Feels like you're drowning in the ocean. Cold and numb, you got no emotion. An empty stare and nothing to say. There are no colors, just shades of gray. It's so lonely at the bottom. The cry goes out, smoke 'em if you got 'em. Get out of bed, but why even bother? Your might have to shave or even take a shower. It's just too hard to even make that call. There's nothing of interest, no nothing at all. It's so lonely at the bottom. The cry goes out, smoke 'em if you got 'em.
And we're back with Garret Vandermolen, and we're talking about how time speeds up as we get older. Garret and I are 20 years apart or so, and not quite that much, but we're a fair ways apart. And I was telling him that, I've only got 20, 25 years left of productivity, and that'll take me into my 90s. And Garret told me that, well, he's experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, based on the actuary chart of my family's history, I think it's optimistic to say that I would have 20 or 25 years. Who knows? I mean, you don't know. You're going to get lucky. But time is a commodity that is in short supply as your life goes on. And you just don't realize it until there's like this certain moment. And you're like, oh, wow, I better get busy. And, I try to do as much as I can each day to pursue this kind of music dream. And often I feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough, but I'm doing quite a bit. And I really want to execute at a level that for me, I hope it's like a quality level. If I start doing it and it's not where I want it to be, then it's not fun. And I think you only have so much time to do stuff like that, really.
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head. It's got to be fun. It's got to be fun.
Right.
What is Sonic Escort?
So I did the Soundco, right, which is a singles label, but I needed something to have as a full length imprint. And that's what Sonic.
When you say full length imprint, I'm not sure my listeners are going to understand what that is.
So doing a single is one song, but if you're going to do somebody's album or somebody's EP or a collection of songs and release that as an entity, I needed another label to do that because the Soundco is not about multiple songs. It's about one song by one artist. Sonic Escort, though, is where I can put albums out. So it started with Speed Fossil. I'm about to have my first ever non-Speed Fossil artist, this guy, Eric Barlow. I'm going to put out his full-length record. He has a great record called Still Moving Parts. He's a guy who's based out of Brooklyn, New York. And I'm going to see where that goes. The Sonic Escort is kind of like a collective of sorts. It's based on the Soundco model, but the criteria is a little bit more open in terms of it's a resource that's available for a broader scope of people, I guess, people who are doing full length records and who want to take advantage of it. So we'll see. It's all this is all new efforts for me. So,
what's your position on Spotify?
Can't stand it. I feel like it's a necessary evil. I realize that so many people, that's their go-to. That's what they listen to. That's where they get music. They're where an algorithm makes a suggestion for them. So I participate in it, but ethically and morally, I feel it's an abomination, basically. It really has destroyed the music business part of things, and it makes it really difficult for people to make a living that make original music that aren't, super funded by a major label.
It's like Napster on steroids, isn't it?
but it's a little bit more insidious than that.
Yeah.
Which it's like I said, I really am opposed to it, but I'm like one of these guys, like I hold my nose and my artists are on there, my music is on there. I may get to a point where I pull out and don't put stuff on Spotify. I've actually been seriously considering it. But for right now, this is the choice that I made, and I'm living with it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm releasing a song a week. I'm back to doing that. I had a business manager, music manager, who just porked me and convinced me to stop putting out music every week
Mhm.
and doing one song in a month and waiting 3 months to do supposed promo for the single, and the promotion never happened, and I just lost time. And I went from over 100 and something thousand listeners on Spotify, and now I'm at like 50,000, and it's like, why'd she
Yeah,
do that?
beast scary. You got to feed the beast.
Gotta feed the beast. Yeah. So Speed Fossil uh, is still your current band, right?
Yes, we've kind of
Even
been,
though you're taking a little bit of a hiatus.
yeah,
And
which was much needed. You know, I needed to focus on the sound cove, and honestly, it's tough being a front guy for a band. There's a lot of other things that go into that persona and that endeavor. So to step away from it for me is healthy for me right now, and I'm getting my fix playing live because I'm playing bass and glow box, and we're doing gigs, and I really enjoy that. So it's been great. But Speed Fossil is coming back. We're doing a 20 song anthology of our 10 years of musical output. We're going to play a
I'll
bunch.
get there. I'll get there. Hold on that.
So it's going to
Uh,
happen.
yeah, that's going to happen in the fall of 2025, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, 10 years of Speed Fossil. Um, let's see here. Uh, I just went brain dead. Help me out.
What do you need?
I need you to talk to me about something, anything.
Well, you were like saying we'll get to the 10 years of Speed Fossil. I think you wanted to do something before that, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or
Well, so we were talking about time and how time's speeding up as we get older, and Speed Fossil is kind of a, wink, wink name, kind of a commentary on the situation, right?
yeah, definitely. Its origins go way back to when I was in college. Um, in that I was sitting around with a bunch of other uh, college attendees in a room doing things that college students do at that point of their life. And we looked out the window, and there was this woman who must have been in her 80s flying by on a bicycle with an electric motor on the back. Like, I mean, literally, she must have been going like 25 or 30 miles an hour. And, and my buddy looked at me, he's like, oh, there goes the Speed Fossil. And it just stuck with me. It was in my head. And when I put this idea of having this group together, I was like, oh, this is the right name for this band, because really, aren't we all speed fossils? Like, we're going to be fossils before we know it. We're just racing through life, and that's kind of what speed fossil is. I mean, I am a guy. I'm going to be 60 soon, and I'm doing music that is usually associated with 20 or 30-year-olds. Power pop, rock type of stuff. I am
If I could only be 60 again, I would do things different. I promise you. Um, uh, so you're a singer.
Yeah, if you want to phrase it that way, sure. Yeah, I like to sing. I try to get better at the craft of singing. It's I admire a lot of singers. Like, I listen to a lot of classic, not even rock singers, like people like Billie Holiday or Frank Sinatra and stuff like that. Like, people who just have amazing control, amazing phrasing,
And phrasing, yeah.
and emotiveness, like to be able to emote. And I'd like to think, and hopefully people will see this when they listen to this anthology, that over 10 years I've gotten better at that craft of singing and emoting and phrasing.
Well, I got good news for you. I'm still improving at 71. So you've got a lot of great stuff to look forward to, because if you are about learning and improving, and you are diligent about it every day, your skills are still sharp
I'm always about
in
that.
your 70s. Yeah.
And I actually, about, I don't know, 5 years into Speed Fossil, I took a bunch of voice lessons with somebody to try to get better at it. And that was a revelation too, in terms of like learning exercises and warm-ups and techniques that you can do to kind of loosen
Yeah.
your tongue.
Have you heard of a guy named Ken Tamplin?
I have not. I have not. Tell me.
Okay, never mind. He's a voice coach, and I was just wondering if maybe that's who your coach was. But um, who did you take lessons from?
A guy named Brutus in Boston. That was,
Brutus. He too,
yeah,
Brutus.
yeah, who was recommended to me by my son's trumpet teacher, who also sings. He's like, you should go talk to this guy. And I would drive into Boston, every week. We'd meet in a rehearsal room, and he'd just run me through, like, 30 minutes of exercises, and like, hey, show me your songs. What are you trying to accomplish here? And it was, like I said, it was very edifying, and really helped me quite a bit become better at singing. At least
Open throat, right?
open throat, get your tongue out of the way, breathe,
Yep.
clearly, warming up. It's like all these things, like, when you're
Diaphragmatic breathing.
yeah, when you're a kid, like even like guitar playing, bass playing, like people don't realize, like, warming up is kind of like this essential part of performing. Like even as a guitarist, if you sit there and you play for half an hour before you do your gig, you're going to walk on stage with this familiarity with your fretboard that, if you're just coming in cold, it takes you like 2 or 3 songs into your set to get that kind of comfort level. I think for most people. But if you're doing it beforehand, you're already there. So you're stepping on stage with a leg up because you're warmed up, and you've had that instrument in your hand. It's the same thing with the vocals. Your vocal cords are loose, and you're ready to go, and you're ready to sing.
Uh,
Right.
yeah. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Um, uh, so in 2014, um, uh, is that when the 12-year hiatus ended? Was 2014?
Yeah, I would say, as of terms of like public knowledge and having it be official, yes, it might be 2012, because we really started working on that first Speed Fossil record. It took about 2 years to do it. Even though it's 10 songs, 5 of them were already recorded in the 90s. We were kind of doing it whenever we could, whenever we had time to get together. And it was just the two of us doing all of the instrumentation and singing and
And
vocal.
then who is the two of us?
It was Greg McCleary. So Greg was the guy that I had,
Cleary.
who was like, hey, let's record these songs. And Greg is another, he's a multi-instrumentalist, and also just an incredible talent in terms of great ear, great producer, great engineer, all of the things that you would want in a musical partner. This guy kind of brought to the table. And when we actually made this record, we made it on pretty archaic, like some old Akai digital recorder, digital hard drive recorder. That's what that first done on. Today people would be like, you recorded that on that? That's crazy. How could this sound this way? But, Greg taught me, an essential lesson in recording is that if you have good microphones, good instruments, good amplifiers, you can record good sounds. If you kind of skimp on those parts of it when you're recording and laying down tracks, you're not going to get great results.
Right.
Always try to have good things that are capturing that performance. And obviously the performance is the most important part. You have to have a good performance, right? But if you have a good mic, good preamp, you can capture good sounds, and then the rest is mixing and outboard gear, to polish it and give it that professional sound so it can be played.
The production. Two questions. Tell me about Light of Day.
So Light of Day was basically, as we talked earlier in the podcast, I was actively playing music in the 90s, and before I stopped, and I had started what was going to be a new record. And I got about 5 songs in, working with this guy, David Minahan, who's kind of a very well-known, iconic rocker in Boston. He was in a band called The Neighborhoods. He's also played guitar in The Replacements. He was a replacement with Paul. And David did 5 songs with me, and they kind of sat. They sat until light of day. So when I started doing the 5 new songs with Greg, I was like, hey, why don't I take these 5 new songs I just recorded with you, Greg, and these 5 old songs I did in the 90s, and I'll put this out as a record. So that's, light of day is the pun in that. Like, I never thought those old 5 songs would see the light of day, but they did. And when I had this record, then I was like, oh, shit, I got to go form a band. I better put a Speed Fossil band together. So the 2014 release of that full-length record, Light of Day, was the impetus for me to start a Speed Fossil live band to go out and actually play those songs and perform them.
Got it. All right, we're going to take our last break, and then we're going to come back with Garret Vandermolen. Super, super interesting cat, I gotta say, and I know I've had quite a few people on my show. So we'll be right back.
I'm in love with a girl on the internet. We've talked twice in real life, and she doesn't know it yet. I say hello with a smile, and my tongue gets tied. Goodbye eyes, she'll never hear the way I feel inside. I'm in love in real life. I'm in love with that girl who lives in my mind. Like the one from the internet, she's kinda hard to find. I close my eyes and we talk almost every night. When I wake up, I'm all alone and she's nowhere in sight. In real life, my mind just always seems to drift away to a comfort I once knew. In real life, I need some help to find the words to say. Something simple like I love you. In real life.
And we're back with Garret Vandermolen. And Garret, take it away.
Thanks, Gary. So I guess we're going to talk about my upcoming anthology now,
Yep.
This is a 20-track record, so it's going to be released on vinyl, double LP, clear vinyl, super limited edition that I'll be selling, and then I'll have the CD as well. And it's basically it's a 10-year retrospective, including one brand new song that we just recorded called Peg Leg that's going to come out in the fall. And what I've basically done is I've gone back to some of those early 2014 recordings and some of the stuff from 2017's You Are So Next, and we've remixed all of them because technology has changed so much in the last 10 years. Like, the advances for what you can do in terms of mixing things has really come forward quite a bit. And I'm excited about it because these songs really sound fresh. They sound awesome. It sounded good. I was able to go back and do an edit on one older song to kind of tighten that up. There's some rare unreleased demos on the record. So it's going to be a lot of fun to put this thing out. The 20 tracks.
And it's called Time Flies, 10 Years of Speed Fossil.
Correct.
What an apropos name of the anthology.
I think so. And just going back and being able to have the opportunity to do it is great. And I'm also hoping like this is for Speedfiles as a band, we really started getting recognition in 2022 when Red on Red put out the No Anesthesia full-length album. That was really the start of like a broader public awareness of the band. So to have a chance to go out and revisit things that happened before that and put that out now, where I think more ears will get on it and listen to it, for me is super exciting to be able to present that and give those older songs an opportunity to be heard by more people.
Okay. I wish you huge success. I'm interested. So vinyl is really making a comeback, isn't it?
I think it's the de facto record of note when you're putting out music. Like it's solid, it's sturdy, it's physical. There's liner notes. There's some actual size to a record.
But people gotta put out $2,000 for a decent turntable these days. So
well, no, everything costs money, and things can't be cheap for forever. But a lot of people too, like I have teenage boys, not teenage, I guess they're young men now. They buy vinyl, and a lot of times they buy it just to support the artist. Like they don't even play it. They're still listening to it on a streaming service or whatever. But it's kind of like, it's a cool thing to have vinyl. It's kind of back and people are embracing it. So for me to do this anthology, I'm not making a lot of them. It's going to be a very, very small run of LPs.
Who's your presser? Who's your presser?
I'm working with this guy called Tangible Formats. I just found him because part of the challenge for me, I almost wasn't going to do vinyl because it was so damn expensive. Like to make a double LP would have cost me like $5,000 or $6,000, and I couldn't.
Oh, really?
I couldn't justify investing that money, and it's not the costs that are there are. That's not even the recording cost. That's just the cost of like making the jackets. The jackets are super expensive, right? To print up, and you have to do a minimum run of 500 at least. Think about it. 500 jackets, 500 labels, 500 pieces of wax.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir again, because I've got 3 LPs which all have in excess of 20 songs on them to release in the next year coming up. And I want to do vinyl, but I had no idea that it was that expensive.
It's really expensive. So this, fortunately, it's still going to be expensive, but not as expensive. And I can make a run of 50 LPs, which is about what I need, for the people that are diehard and really want to get this thing.
How much are you going to sell them for?
I'm going to sell them for $60 a piece. So, and that will recoup my investment in it for them. So, I mean, which if you think about it, if you go on, there's a site called Acoustic Sounds that sells a lot of vinyl. Most of their LPs range from $25 to $50 for single LPs. So for a double LP at $60, that's a good deal. It's going to last you forever, and it's going to sound great because I don't slack on any of the details when I'm doing my production. I have a great mastering engineer in Nashville. The pressings are top notch. I do them on clear vinyl, so it's attempt to reach audiophile quality. Yeah. So everything about this is a top notch effort, I think. And the LPs I've done to date have been that way. So,
well, to all my listeners, especially my musical listeners, Garret Vandermolen, I hope I'll have him back on my show after he gets this anthology out. I might have him back before if he'll come. But anyways, a lot to learn from Garret, and he's been there and done it, which I can't say about a lot of people. So very interesting road and history. And Garret, it was really, really good having you on my show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary. It's my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk, and also to all the folks that are listening to your podcast. Thank you for making it to the end and listening to me babble on for all this time.
You didn't
really
babble.
Really Thank you.
You didn't babble for 1 second, buddy. All right, that's it. Everybody, c'est la vie in the music business. Bye, Garret.
All right, ciao.